You know, for folks that maybe new folks coming into Conklin that's maybe heard of this tractor but don't know a lot of the history on it. We started using Conklin products in it in 1974, and you know, we've used Conklin products exclusively since then. The first 4 years of its life we used John Deere products in it, and then we started using the conditioners, and then when they came with the convoy oil in 79, I believe.
78.
In 79, we switched everything, all of our equipment, everything over to convoy oil. All of our tractors, equipment, everything, we changed oil once a year. So this tractor, there was years when it had 1,000 hours on the drain, and it just, I can remember Galen. The first, I can remember this like it was this morning. It was up there in our little shop, and had a little over 10,000 hours on it. And Galen said, you know, we ought to grind the valves, bud. So he came down and took the head off, and Galen said, Bud, come over here. He said, look in there. I said, what am I looking for, Galen? Well, he said, well, look in there. And I didn't know what he wanted me to see, and he said, look at that. He said, you can still see the home marks on those liners at 10,000 hours. He said, I've had to do a major overhaul on dozens of 4020s. You know, it didn't make it to 8,000 hours.
Yeah.
He said, I'll always remember this. He said, it's got to be the oil. And we really didn't think a lot about it, did
No,
we?
no.
We kind of joked around, might make it to 15,000. We really did. Kind of just said, well, it might make 15,000 hours. Gil said, yeah, it might. Well, it went to 15. And of course, you videoed when it went to 20,000. One of the weak places on that 4020 engine is, correct me if I'm wrong, Galen, the oil pump runs off the camshaft.
Yeah.
Galen looked at that at 20,000 hours. He said we're good till 30,000 hours at least. So at 10,000 hours, Galen mic'd the sleeves. We had 2,000s wear, not 20,000s, 2,000s. And then at 22,000 hours, we had an intake valve popping, and Galen says, we better put new valves in this. He said, we might be in this engine before we really need to be. At 22,000 hours, Galen mic'd the sleeves again. We had 3,000s wear. You can still see the factory hone marks on 4 of the liners at 22,000 hours.
Read the part numbers on the pistons too.
Yeah. Pistons, no carbon whatsoever because of
Diesel Plus.
Diesel Plus. If you keep the top area clean, you're eliminating carbon. And carbon will cause wear in cylinder liners too if it breaks loose and so on. And so, you know, whenever the top end is important too to keep clean.
Gotcha.
So we got 4-power Diesel Plus and Fuel Mate Plus to control that situation, whether it's gasoline or diesel. I remember one time you told me, Ben, you said, you know, sometimes we kind of we're so used to these products and the benefits, we take them for granted. That's safe in the coolant, because, you know, keep that cooling system clean, then that engine's going to run more efficiently.
Now what's that gauge going to tell us? Compression?
Nope, oil.
Oil pressure. Okay, we got it.
Ready?
We're ready.
When I revved it up some, that the needle didn't go up much. So that tells me too that this oil is, you know, it's not hot. It's not, you know, it's cold oil in there yet. And I don't know, it's something. There's something about that oil. It isn't going to change a whole lot. You know, in other words, the oil is not heavy like a lot of motor oil. When it gets cold, it gets heavy. And then your pressure really go up. But this here is just consistent. It's more consistent. But 35 pound, good shape.
So Galen's getting ready here with Terry's help to take the pan down, and this is the very first time that pan's ever been off of there. And this is going to help convince some of our naysayers, you know, that don't believe And it's hard to believe those hours, you know, it's hard for us to believe it. And we're around it every day, but it's fact.
Back here.
And I think, Galen said one time that if we get into the bearings, back then they put the year of the bearings, stamped it on the bearing, I'm pretty sure. So if we have to go that far, that bearing will say 1970. Almost made it to 40 years and almost made it to 30,000.
Okay. I'm going to run over toward your way. You might be able to pick it up.
I can see bare metal on the sides there.
Yes, sir.
40 years, not bad, huh?
No, I'd say.
Okay, what we're looking at here, there's O-rings in the block around, and your sleeve slides down through, and that causes it to seal. Now, so I have run into a lot of them where the O-rings get hard, and then they'll leak. But my experience with safe is I can guarantee we pull them sleeves out of there, them O-rings going to be nice, pliable, just like new.
Okay.
So at this moment, I can't see any leaking, so this might be a hard one to find. So as you look at that, there's very little wear on that. So I assume that there's not a whole lot of wear on the cam. For a tractor, the pan's been on for 40 years. I want you to take notice. Now, if this oil was hot when we drained it, it would all have drained out. But just take notice here, there's no slush, no nothing. If we wipe this off, like so, there's what you have.
Just like it came from the factory, Galen.
Yeah,
40 years.
40 years, guys.
8,000 hours.
With other conventional oils, you would never do this, I'll tell you. You wouldn't, you'd have to, chances are you'd power wash the thing and get it clean. We know what the block looks like inside, and all the parts and stuff in there, running parts look like this. 40 years. I want to comment about the, most generally when you take a plug out of a water system, you always will get a little dirt. So, you know, we're going to find out if safe's doing the job. If this comes out, when I pull that plug out, and if you see dirt, then I mean, it's not doing its job, put it that way. So we're going to see what happens here. And there's been times when especially I drain around a block, you usually have to take a wire or something after you take the plug out, get the dirt worked out before the foot runs out of it. So we're going to see what happens here. What do you think, guys?
I would say it's doing its job.
Definitely doing its job, yeah. Comments, Galen?
Now, some guys may say, well, that may not be true because you got water flowing through this. Anytime you take a plug out, if there's going to be anything, it's always going to be some on the plug. I don't care if water does flow through. If that's the case, whenever you take the radiator plug out, you got water flowing through that all the time. So it isn't any difference. I can take the radiator plug out, and if it comes out like this, there's absolutely no dirt. There's just no dirt. It keeps it clean. So we know what the water system looks like inside the head and the block, and around the sleeves, they'd be clean. And many engines that I pulled down at the bottom, inside, around the sleeve, down through, around the top of the block area inside. When you pop a sleeve out, there's usually slush and stuff in there. And my experienced tractors using safe, that's just as clean as can be. Just as clean as can be. Really, to be honest with you, I can tear this all completely down and take this block and go back together with new parts. Most generally, I take them to the machine shop and get them flushed out because there's so much junk and crud in them.
The radiator hoses that's on this tractor has been on there since 1974.
It's 1974.
Yep.
That one's been replaced.
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
But the big one here.
big ones. Yeah.
Before we started using Safe, we would have to replace one of those hoses probably every year to 18 months.
Safe just keeps the radiator hoses in decent shape, huh?
Yes, it does. We were just speaking about our radiator hoses, and I want you to take a look at this. Hose has been on there this long. You absolutely don't squeeze it like this, and where you wouldn't see cracks. And this hose absolutely can be used. I don't know, buddy. Should we put a time on these hoses too, like we have on this engine?
Well, let's see if it'll go another 36 years.
36 years on this hose? You think you might be stretching? But really, it's just like new. It's a pliable, and it's amazing. So that's what Safe will do. That's what Safe will do. Also protects. Not only keeps clean, but it also protects.
There's these connectors between, these nylon connectors between the injector and the return line. And before we started using Diesel Plus many years ago, we would have to change these quite often. They would get hard and split and leak. And of course the Diesel Plus, you know, is formulated to protect gaskets and keep gaskets soft in the fuel system. Well, it works the same way on these. It keeps these soft and pliable so they don't go bad. It doesn't look like a big deal. They're probably maybe $1 or $2 a piece, but when they start leaking, you've got to replace them. So that's downtime, time wasted, and they're not easy to change. No big deal, but still it's just another little benefit of these products that we don't really think about until we get into something like this.
We've got the bolts out of the pan, and we're going to pull it off here and see what it looks like.
Head.
Or top valve cover. Yeah.
Okay.
Still pan, bud.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
There we are. Not too bad. Now what you're seeing here, this is water. Now remember, here's water running down right here. And water will cause oil to do this, kind of get slushy like. But I'll get a rag here.
So you definitely had a water leak someplace.
Yeah, there's a water leak. So, but anyway, it wouldn't be for that water leak. You can see what we have here. See how clean that is?
Yep. Yep.
Now you can see the water run down. And a lot of times, believe it or not, water will collect up in the top of the valve cover like this.
Condensation.
Condensation, yes. Got the rocker arm here. Take a look at it. Looks pretty clean. Here's where the rocker's been running. And I have already replaced this shaft for simple reason of wear. And I don't, Bud, feel that. Do you feel any wear there? It usually is a ridge right in there. I don't feel anything.
Absolutely none.
I don't feel anything.
Absolutely none.
Okay, we're ready to pull ahead.
All right, let's do it.
Line's loose over there.
Yep. Clear over.
Very, very little carbon. And does it use a little bit of oil now?
Yeah.
Okay. That comes from using a little bit of oil. How much you adding, Terry, you know?
I don't know. Maybe a couple quarts every 100 hours.
Notice the valves, how clean they are on the head of the valve there.
Yep.
Looks pretty good. All right, we're going to take a look at the sleeve here. Now, believe it or not, now the home mark is right over here going where the light is shining against the side. You see a little bit of home mark left yet.
You can see it real good from this angle, from over here.
Can you?
Yeah, right along there.
So, you know, we're talking about home marks here, you know.
That were put in there at the factory.
Yes.
Explain what those are.
Why, it's to lubricate the piston,
Okay.
see? In other words, the oil that the rings take up by, there's always a little bit of oil in them grooves. If it wouldn't be for that, why, chances are an engine would use oil. I'm getting so very little wear, I can't hardly. 4,000s. We had two, where's Bud? We had two
2000s at 10,000.
2000s, 10, and now we,
3 at 22.
3 at 22. Now we got another 1,000 more wear. If you shine your camera down in here, you'll see the number. That's the John Deere right where my finger is. That's the John Deere part number.
See where it says front and got the arrow pointing?
Oh, let me see if I can zero in a little bit.
Might be hard for the camera to pick
Is there a
it
part
up.
number? Yeah, there's a part number
Yeah.
there.
It also says front and got the
Front.
arrow.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah,
Wow.
that comes from Diesel Plus. Using Diesel Plus.
Diesel Plus keeps it clean, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Mercy.
So all the pistons I've been into with the conventional oil, the only way you'd ever see a number is scrape it. You'd actually scrape the carbon off. And it's, you know, it's amazing.
It is.
Really amazing. So far, you know, things are looking good.
That tractor's older than I am.
That's the water check, and that is clean, isn't it, in there?
Yep.
Yeah, I would suggest replacing them.
Okay.
That'll let us mic the shaft, or the crankset will let us mic the crankshaft when you
Yes.
pull one.
Yeah, we can mic the crank then, and
See what the O-rings are like.
now you got to remember this tractor. You know, you talk about the oil. The rear seal is still in this tractor. That just boggles my mind.
Yeah, it does
It,
mine too.
you know, rear seals will go out too. Usually when you do an engine overhaul, you replace the seal. But it's dry underneath there. There's no oil. Really, the only thing we replaced in the engine was valves.
Right. And then in the power shift transmission, well, at 24,000 hours, Dan, it was here in Galen's shop, and he put the very first set of brakes on it. And you've been to our farm, and you know there's a hill on each side of it, and this tractor's pulled thousands of loads of silage and held them back on the other hill. And we'd actually forgot about the brakes. And Terry came in the house one morning and said, got a few black spots in the transmission oil. And I said, good gosh, it's the brakes. And we'd forgot about it. So, and we got that on video. Cliff Labor come in and videoed that. They were the old asbestos linings. That was proof that they were the originals.
Yes.
At a little over 24,000 hours. So Gail and I was about 60 then. We're just a few months apart. And I said, Galen, you know, it's going to be another 35 years probably before we get into this. So you and I probably may not be around for a while. We're probably not going to be wanting to do the work. I said, start the engine and go back and see what you find. So the only thing that Galen had to replace was your first shaft that fits into the clutch. It's a dry clutch on the 4020s. So we had some wear on that shaft. Other than that, Galen, I remember Galen saying, Bud, this tractor looks, on the inside, looks like it just came off the showroom floor. And check the discs in the power shift. You know, they were true. Remember?
Yes.
And the cover off the transmission was so shiny that we had to be careful how we held it. When Cliff was videoing it, it just shined. It just looked like a ball of fire, you might say, because that's shiny. And Galen said, I've taken many of them off, it was black on, you know, yeah.
And if I can remember right, the brake plate, there's a plate in there.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can remember right, I did not replace them.
Didn't replace it.
And usually, you see the transmission oil helps with keeping the heat down. And most of them, I tear down that disc, big disc. It's about, I don't know, about 3/8 probably. Usually you replace them because they're warped. And the reason why they're warped is because of heat. And, you know, and I'm sure that the hills you have down there really put this to the test.
Yeah.
And all we replaced was the pads. That was it. So, there again, it's Conklin products. Yeah.
Well, where do we go from here, Galen?
Well, I don't know. If we go any further, I mean,
Yeah, we need to have a sleeve on video and mic the crankshaft while we're here.
Might as well.
I'll get a O-ring pick and see if I can pick one of those O-rings out. That is, there's no, you see a little rust, but there's no cavitation. I don't see cavitations, you'll see pits. I don't see any pits at all. Yeah, what you're seeing there is,
No electrolysis at all.
no, none whatsoever.
Now, is that the original liners then?
Yes,
Wow.
yeah. Yeah, this is the first time from top of your block down it's ever been apart.
Galen, would you say a lot of, back through the years, I think I've heard you say a lot of 40/20s, you know, they would have cavitation so bad you'd start getting antifreeze in the oil.
Yeah.
At maybe 7,000 to 8,000 hours.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, it's so bad it'd go through the liner and start leaking. Because this is a wet system. This is what they call a wet liner system. And most of your diesel engines are that way, wet liners.
And you've seen them go through in just 7,000 or 8,000 hours?
Yeah, I've seen that
It wasn't
already.
getting any water in the
Yeah.
oil at all.
Yeah, safe.
It,
Eliminates that, doesn't
you know, it
No,
depends
just
across the country wherever the tractor's located and the minerals in the water and all this stuff, you know, plays a factor on engines, liners and stuff.
That's what's nice about the safe, no matter what the problem might be with the water, it just corrects it, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So there we are, guys.
All right.
Looking pretty good. Let me take a look here. Oh, I need to get a picture of that.
Yeah, that is spotless.
That crankshaft's not hurt at all. No problem putting a set of bearings on that and go.
Okay, recap what we've seen so far, you guys.
Well, everything's looking real good, really. I don't think really need to go any further because we pulled one liner and the other is going to look the same. So, and I know that the crank's not hurt at all, and so I think we put a set of liners in her and
New rings.
new rings, and
New bearings.
you're going to grind the valves or going to let it go? Better get them just looked at, huh?
Only 28,000 on it, Galen. I don't know.
Well, I realize that, but you know,
Yeah.
probably look at them.
Yeah.
Okay, Galen, you worked on these things for 40 years, the 4020 John Deere's. When did they come out? That was 70 the first year, was 69, 68? When did they come out?
64, 1964.
64.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us what you, for the layman, tell us what you've seen today.
Well,
And over the years.
I've been in a lot of diesel motors, lots of diesel motors, and different styles of motors and makes and models, and I guess you experience a lot of things and a lot of wear and tear that if it just would go ahead and use our products, they could save themselves a lot of misery. When you got a tractor like this, it's first time bottom end down. To me, that just boggles my mind. And I'm not here boasting. I'm just here because of 40 years experience. So 4020s, I've been in a lots of them, and I guess that's one of my favorite tractors. And this one, especially here, is my favorite. And if Bud doesn't watch, I'd allow it to come down someday and just take it home with me. So anyway, I'm just real pleased what I have seen. And I don't know about you, Bud. I'm sure that you're excited about it.
Bud, can you go through the products that you used on the tractors?
Sure. Skip's asked me if I can go through the products. Well, starting at the front and going back, Diesel Plus in the fuel. Every tank full we get gets Diesel Plus. 4 power when we would think of it throughout the year.
You can talk about your injection pump.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And Galen,
Oh, gosh,
as he
yes.
goes through the products, you maybe relate what the evidence here, what they do.
Tell them about the injection pump, Bud.
Gosh, yes. I'm glad Galen's got a good memory. Injection pump was not off. Now that has a Rosamaster Model C, right?
Yeah.
Which, when Rosamasters sold out to Standardine quit making parts for that pump because it was junk. They said it was junk. If it goes bad, you've got to buy a new Model B pump.
Pump, yes.
Well, this pump was never off the tractor till around, I think, 23,000 hours. It finally started acting up, and we took it to Performance Diesel at Fredericktown, Ohio, and gosh, we had to spend $278 on it, Galen, to bring it back up to new. Isn't that awful for a junk pump? But the Diesel Plus, they weren't junk pumps, they just needed to be lubricated.
Yes.
And there again, wow.
Most generally, when you take a pump injection pump, you'll get $500–600 in a pump because of all the wear and stuff. So you got by pretty reasonable, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a friend of mine has crane business, and he had an injection pump go bad on one of his new cranes. It was just went out of warranty. It had less than 300 hours on it, and the pump went bad, and it cost him a little over $5,000. That bought a lot of Diesel Plus.
Yeah.
And Bush said it was because of lack of lubrication in the fuel.
Yeah.
Okay.
So going on back, we've talked a lot about safe today, safe in the radiator. Well, we run Dyke as a preventative. That's probably why we couldn't find that coolant leak today. Dyke probably sealed it off, and like Galen said, it's probably got to get pretty hot for it to start leaking. It's leaking so very little. So we don't know where our coolant leak came from. Convoy oil in the engine, and I really need to emphasize again that oil's only changed once a year. We change the filters every 150, 200 hours. Supposed to be changed every 100. We found that wasn't really necessary with the Convoy oil. So there's quite a savings there, with the extended drains. It sure didn't hurt the engine, did it?
No, not at all.
Of course, we talked about the advantage of using safe, for the radiator hoses. So back to the back end again, we're using battalion in the hydraulic transmission system. We usually go around 5,000 hours between drains on that, but once a year we put the Enduro in at the recommended rate. Because hydraulic transmission fluid will, it kind of loses its additive package. So the Enduro just puts that robust back into the additive package, back into that oil. As long as it's clean, change the filters, no problem going 5,000 hours on the hydraulic transmission fluid, even with the power shift. It is a power shift.
Yeah, no.
And
Then you got to remember, with your power brakes, everything's in oil, and your power shift transmission, all those discs shifting creates heat, a lot of heat. A lot more heat than a standard transmission, because, you know, you're constant shifting and so on, and there's more heat.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And Battalion's going to run cooler because of
Yeah.
its formulation.
right.
The parasynthetic formulations. And
And I think we see it with our hydraulic hoses too.
Mhm.
A lot less, you know, fractures in the hose, more pliable. So,
Yep.
you know, it works all the way around.
And is that part of probably losing the additive package in the hydraulic fluid hooking to various pieces of equipment and running other fluid through?
well, we made a decision many years ago that, you know, we even hate to rent the soil conservation's no-till drill because that's got somebody else's fluid in those cylinders, you know. We've run Battalion for many, many years, so all of our equipment's, whatever it may be, whether it's a disc or corn planter or whatever's, all got Battalion in the systems, you might say. I have turned a couple neighbors down, wanted to use our manure spreader, and I said, no, not really. So I didn't want their oil mixed in with ours. You know, when it come back, it would have their oil in the cylinders and everything, so, on their lift gate. So I turned them down for that reason. Ben, I don't know how many thousands and thousands of dollars we've saved just on this one piece of equipment. And we've got 6 tractors, a self-propelled harvester, self-propelled mower, and, well, what, about probably 30-some pieces of John Deere equipment. I can think back when we started using Rhino. Before we started using Rhino on our forage boxes, we're kind of in the hills. So those wagons take a lot of abuse because of the tremendous weight on the bottom side going around the hills. And we would always have wheel bearings going out of our running gears on the wagons before Rhino. Once we took all those bearings out, cleaned them up, put Rhino in, we go years without ever replacing a bearing. We lost one before last. Didn't lose any last fall. Last year we just, how many loads did we lack, Terry, of pulling 1,000 loads of silage on?
I don't remember, it was over 900, I knew that.
Yeah. And that's a lot of miles on them wagons.
Yeah.
That was with 5 wagons. So,
Yep.
So it just, wow. What other word can I use? Wow.